Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I must say, actually, I'm starting to suffer a degree of Cyril Ramaphosa fatigue. For those of you who don't recall, Cyril Ramaphosa came to power after Jacob Zuma, and everybody said, well, we would have this new age of South Africa. Things would reform, economies would get fixed, and the businessman would know how to be business-like in terms of South Africa, and he would usher in a new Wakanda. Well, he hasn't. And we really need to start talking about one of the key policies that Cyril Ramaphosa keeps talking about. Specifically, this idea that transformation, or BEE, is going to fix the economy of South Africa. But before we do, can I yet again remind you, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and do all the other lovely YouTube stuff. It really does help, and it really helps improve my morale, because making these videos is tough. So let's actually get on to what happened. Well, at the weekend, Cyril Ramaphosa made the claim that transformation will drive economic growth. This was at a Black Business Council meeting, which I must be honest, I always struggle with the idea of you have these black-only spaces, and that's okay, but if you did the reverse, well, that's not okay. In any case, let's actually look at the idea that transformation will improve the economy. Well, one is reminded that the actual GDP grew on average 1.6% between 2003 and 2023, which is far below global benchmarks, and unemployment in South Africa remains amongst the worst globally, with 33% overall and 60% for youth unemployment. Just for knowledge, the next closest to us is like at 20%. It's really, really bad. Black African households still earn 5 times less than a white household on average, despite there being, 20, nearly 30 years worth of transformation. I want us to ask the question as to why this is. In 20 years, black representation in senior management rose from 14% to 23%. And one is reminded that there are still 142 active race-based laws in South Africa that have existed since post-apartheid. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually according to AR. So I actually got the AR to crunch the numbers. So before anybody goes, oh, that's not true, because there will be that person, go check it up on the AR. The AR itself will tell you that that is factual. Now, this idea that all of these figures can be explained through, racism, and the best way to fix this is a real transformation, we've heard. Well, the IMF has been rather diplomatic around South Africa's BEE rules, but they have noticed that the redistribution without forms of governance reform is going to be ineffective. They say that actually corruption, SEO restructuring, and deregulation are the 3 main things that will get South Africa's growth going. Not transformation. Anti-corruption, SOE restructuring, deregulation. Deregulation being one of the key areas that will help economic growth. Now, the IMF suggests that just fixing our governance itself, just fixing governance, could lead to a 1 to 2% growth rate annually. Now, it's important to recognize that parties such as the Free Market Foundation, the Center for Development and Enterprise, Freedom Front Plus, AfriForum, Solidarity, you name it, like pretty much anybody with a brain cell, has called for a full review of BEE economic costs and have suggested that BEE should be ended in favor of a new points-based system, that a merits-based, non-racial empowerment alternative could really stimulate inclusive growth in the economy. But you see, the problem is it doesn't allow for there to be major beneficiaries of BEE, such as Patrice Motsepe, who is Cyril's brother-in-law, or Cyril. So it is very, very curious that the very individuals who look to defend BEE are some of the individuals who benefited from BEE. Now, you could argue very clearly that BEE is a failed policy because it enriches a politically connected elite and not the masses, that it discourages foreign and local investment due to red tape and ownership structures, and because of the increasing corruption from tenders and all the other things that happen around scorecards and non-performance of tenders. Yeah, but making those criticisms would be racist. Yeah, they'd be racist. Because as Ronald Lamola, our international relations minister, said, black leaders must defend transformation laws or risk losing the constitutional gains in 1994. Always a reference back to apartheid. This is always the logic. Now, it's important to recognize that our former public prosecutor has also said that BE doesn't need to be scrapped, it needs to be tweaked, because the current system feeds the fat cow and expects it to poop for the rest. So they call for BE to become reparative and not just racially symbolic. So now BE is reparations? I can't keep track of all this. Then black business leaders argued that actually the biggest obstacles to transformation in South Africa is actually access to finance, specifically for emerging black entrepreneurs. And so what stifles growth isn't BE, they said. It's the fact that basically the credit industry is a dominated industry by racists. I mean, the problem with the credit industry is that it actually wants to be repaid. And in many instances, many of these BE tenderpreneurs don't do the job and squander the cash, which means that if you are a credit lender, you might not be repaid. I think that's a pretty good reason as to why they wouldn't want to fund things. So the ANC has a message for all those who are anti-BEE. Well, apparently the only individuals who would be anti-BEE are the political right. Yep, the political right who wants to somehow keep black people poor and wants to keep colonialism occurring and white people as being supreme, and it must be white supremacy. It's just so tiring. This is just so tiring. The whole conversation is just so tiring. So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, is BE the cause of poverty and exclusion in South Africa? Is it a failed experiment that just entrenches elite wealth? A system that destroys merit-based opportunity? Hey, I don't know. What do I know? I must be a racist. You tell me in the comment section below. But I must be honest, I'm getting really tired of Cyril talking a load of nonsense in relation to this topic constantly. So, moving swiftly on then to the minister who last week I covered, who was asked during an independent panel review how she assesses competence, to which she responded, Google it. And if you haven't already seen that video, go back and watch it. In any case, the president apparently summoned her and demanded a full report on the panel and the names and the vetting process details. Parties close to the minister say that actually she's come to the end of her runway, because there is a belief that no panel existed and she can't keep stonewalling it. So the individuals who she was supposedly having to determine whether or not they were competent, well, doesn't actually exist. Because it would now appear that the reason she went, Google it, is because she didn't do a job. And so now the actual panel members who she was supposed to be talking about how she actually determined their competencies that don't exist, well, we've now got a problem, don't we? Because the appointees who supposedly were going to be pushed forward, one was the son of Gwede Matasha, and 3 of them were all ANC affiliates. Yeah, I can see now why during the panel discussions they were saying, how did you determine the competencies? Now that was kind of lost from the video. So yes, we can now see that there was never a panel to select, and that it was 4 ANC cadres who were suggested to be appointed. And when asked how this all came about, she just said, Google it? Yeah, ANC, baby. Like, it's just ANC. ANC all over. Yet another day with the ANC. ANC fatigue is really a real thing now. It's a real thing. Moving then on to a different news topic. Maybe this one will be a little bit better. And this is the topic that Helen Zille may run for the Johannesburg Mayorship in 2026. Those of you who don't recall, she was previously the mayor of Cape Town. Well, apparently she said that she is considering serving as the mayor of Johannesburg. Now, the reason for this is because of Johannesburg's state of decline. Johannesburg itself, which is facing deepening infrastructure decay, potholes, outages, broken traffic lights, where everything's chaotic, and to be honest, the municipalities and who governs them, specifically the mayorship, just seems to change on the whim. For many individuals who have noticed downtown Johannesburg, many have looked at it and said, wow, looks like a bomb went off, and that's pretty much what it looks like. For many individuals have said, yep, she'd be great, because according to them, she gets things done, and Johannesburg is in a deep crisis needing good leadership. Some individuals have said that she's competent and moral, and other individuals have said that she could return Johannesburg to its former glory. However, it's not without any form of criticism, because noticeable racist Herman Mashaba has criticized the DA for sidelining black leaders. Yep, sounds like Herman Mashaba. Another activist warned that a Zille as mayor would negatively impact the black masses. Yeah, I don't know. It's always the same with these people. According to Zille, she says that she would consider the nomination on the basis that she would do anything to save the city to which she owes her youth. She acknowledges that Johannesburg's recovery would require monumental effort, and she believes that, well, she could do it. And I suppose maybe if anybody could do it, maybe she could. I don't know, you let me know what you think in the comment section below. On to the next news article, and this is the news article which I brought you last week of the judge who said, and I quote, "I don't think a white advocate would have the gall to ask me that. If you've seen the video, you know the video." Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, he's apologized for it. He says that he publicly apologizes for his behavior. And this was after the Black Lawyers Association called him racist and said that he couldn't possibly say that because it was undermining the independence of the judiciary by being racist. And so he has apologized, and he says that everyone in South Africa who felt hurt or insulted to those individuals, he says sorry. He says if people say I'm racist, I'm not aware of that, but, I apologize anyway. So for those of you who thought, wow, here's a judge with some balls, and he just said what he thought, unfortunately, he's apologized for it. So, yeah, oh well, another day, eh? On to a final news article. This is the news article that the voter support, in terms of the ANC, continues to decline. And this is in relation to local elections. So you may recall that on the 29th of May 2024, we had the general election, and the ANC support dropped by 17.3% to its famous 40.2%. Well, in the last 127 by-elections, the ANC lost support in 61% of those elections. It only improved its performance in 44 of the by-elections, and ultimately it remained the same, roughly the same kind of statistics, in 6. The largest estimates are that the actual ANC support now rests at 32%, which shows that come the next elections, the ANC is irrelevant. Now, 2 of its biggest losses were obviously in the Karoo in the Northern Cape, which they lost to Gator Mackenzie, part of the PA, and another stronghold in the Northern Cape, they managed to retain the ward but lose 27% of the vote, dropping its voter share down to 39%. Ish. Wow. Really doing well, aren't they? So how's the DA doing? Well, the DA has, on average, actually remained pretty much the same. Out of the last 73 by-elections, the DA improves its support in 64% of those by-elections and worsens its support in 33%, with its strongest gains basically being in the metros, Johannesburg, Tshwane, Nelson Mandela Bay, and so forth. So it does look like in the major cities, come 2026, the DA stands to gain a lot. So then the next question is, well, how's the MK party doing? Well, of the 64 by-elections that it contested, it won 8, which obviously included 1 in the Western Cape, basically being Saldanha Bay. The majority of the wards that they win appeared to be in KwaZulu-Natal, with the MK party still roughly being a Zulu nationalist party. The EFF, however, poor Julius. Of the 76 by-elections, they performed worse in over 50%, and they improved slightly in 39%. But they won nothing. The IFP, however, ran 32 by-elections, improved in 66% of them, and worsened in 28% of them. So their trend currently is on the up. And finally, Gayton McKenzie. Well, of the 26 by-elections that his party contested in, they improved in 81%. Whoa, BA is on the rise, baby. And they declined in 15%, with their main traction being in the coloured communities of the Western Cape, Northern Cape, and Johannesburg. So overall, they've seen a growth support of 4,000%. Yeah, they're now the 6th largest political party in South Africa, so wait to see what happens in the next government elections. Anyway, that's the news of today. I must be honest and say it's just full of fatigue. But that's just my view. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until tomorrow, bye.
You do have to fight to keep freedom. Because there are always people who say, oh, give a little bit more power to government, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. Then one day, you've got so many people employed by government that they have a vested interest in keeping more and more power in the hands of government, and less in the hands of people. No, it shall not be. Governments are there to serve the liberties of the people, not to restrict.
So we're going to introduce you to Shoet. Shoet, tell me why you're here today.
Well, I'm here to support Tommy Robinson because I'm a Pakistani immigrant in the UK and I've been here for the last 10 years. And I'm a legal immigrant. I came here through Heathrow Airport, through Immigration Home Office, so I paid my way in here. I was working up until last year, October, for Swansea Council, but then somebody said to me that Tommy Robinson, a man called Tommy Robinson, is such a racist. And my whole community used to tell me, oh, these white people are racist, Tommy Robinson is racist. But because I come to this country legally and I went to the university here and I met so many white people and I've got so many white friends, I thought it was my loyalty towards the white people to go there and say, you know what, no, white people are not racist. If anything, I've seen racism towards the white people from my own community, from the Muslims. And you talk about Lucy Conley, you talk about Tommy Robinson, you talk about Wayne Rourke. All of these people are behind bars for what? Just because they're criticizing a religion. I am a Muslim, like I said. How is it okay for the Muslims to stand in each corner in each city and say, oh, you know what, because you're a Christian, your faith, your religion is wrong, it's false. Guess what? UK is a Christian country. For me, it is and it always will be a Christian country. If these people are allowed to criticize Christianity, how is it that people are allowed to criticize Islam? I'm not saying I'll burn anyone's book. I wouldn't do that. That goes against my moral values. But if I see somebody burning the Quran, I would not hold it against them because it is freedom of speech. Like I said, I wouldn't do it, but if he's doing it, well, more than welcome to do it. But then we have seen 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when the guy who burned the Quran outside the Turkey embassy, and he got, and the thing is, they have passed a judgment against him, and he got convicted basically. Obviously he had to pay some fine, but this is, people need to see the Sharia laws are in place in the UK. And I say this as a Muslim, you know, when you have all these Islamists running your justice system, like we are out here right now, nobody would want to be in the presence of a judge which you don't know that they are there for the people or they are there for a certain type of religion or certain type of community. I am from that community, and because I said Tommy Robinson is not racist, the far right, the so-called far right white people are not racist.
What does far right mean to you?
Well, for me, they mean patriots. I'm a far right because I'm concerned about the people of this country. I live in this country. So when people ask me, who do you support? I live in the UK, I support the UK. I don't support Pakistan or anything else. I only support the UK because I'm here. So yeah, I'm here to show support to Tommy Robinson when 99% of my own ethnic people from my own community tell him that he's a racist. I am that one person who will stand there every single day. Like I travel from Wales to there. So if I have to come anywhere in the UK, I will go and I'll support Tommy Robinson. I'll let him know he's not a racist. I've met the guy once, right? And I can tell you he's not a racist. He's a concerned citizen, like I think 99 to 100% of the people living in the UK right now. So that's why I'm here today.
Thank you for your time,
No problem.